Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here again with Droid Life. So I've got the OnePlus 9 Pro here. The review's done. You should go read that. I'll leave a link down below. We've also unboxed it, so in case you want to see what comes in the box, not all of this stuff, but some of this stuff. So you're starting to receive phones. You may have your new OnePlus 9 Pro today, and well, this is our video series where we tell you what you should do right out of the box to make sure you're on that right path to getting the most out of it. Let's dive in right here. This is our first 10 things we think you should do with the OnePlus 9 Pro. All right, I will try to make this fast. If you followed us for a while, you know these videos are never fast, and I never hold on to that promise, but we'll try. So the first thing we want to do is, well, security. Secure your phone. On this particular device, I'm using Face Unlock with the camera up there. I have a fingerprint reader here. I have a pattern if I need it. And so you should secure your phone. If you lose it, drop it, someone steals it, whatever, you should make sure they can't just swipe in and unlock. So let's show you where you can access all of this stuff. So dive into settings. That was a little swipe down settings. And then we're just going to go right into this section here, security and lock screen. So in security and lock screen, you can kind of skip this first top part here, but we want to come into this section. So lock screen passcode. So mine's set as a pattern, but you could also do a PIN or a password. Skip the none, skip the swipe. Those are not secure at all. And in fact, if you use those, you can't use Face Unlock, fingerprint, all of that stuff. So anyway, I have pattern set, but feel free to choose there. Fingerprint. So this phone has an in-display fingerprint reader. I have 3 set up. It's pretty easy to add a new one. You just tap on add fingerprint. It puts the finger there. You just start putting your finger on there until it goes through the entire setup. And it's not quick. The fingerprint reader on this phone is solid. It's probably not the fastest I've ever used. Have you ever tried setting up a middle finger? Very awkward to do this. Anyway, so you just walk through this, trying to get it to finish here. And so then once you have those set up, you can add multiple. You can see I now have 4. I have both thumbs, and I think I have this index finger, and of course now I have this middle finger too. So you can set up a number of them, you can name them, you can delete them, whatever you want to do, but set those up because, you know, it's handy. The third thing then is Face Unlock. You know, I couldn't tell you how secure the Face Unlock here is. It's just using that camera. I set it up on most OnePlus phones because I find it to be insanely fast. Like if this thing sees any part of your face, it kind of just unlocks in an instant. Of course, you don't have to use it. Fingerprint and a pattern password PIN, probably good enough. This is just more of a convenience thing since I tend to have my phone on me all the time. So Face Unlock, turn on. If you have face data, you could remove it there, which I have. To walk through the process, you really tap a button, put your face in front of the camera, it scans it. It takes all of 5 seconds. But these 2 options are something you should be aware of. Assistive lighting I have off because it just tries to sort of brighten your phone up a little bit to try to read your face, maybe if it's in a dark situation. And then this auto unlock when the screen is on, that's just saying if it reads your face, it's going to unlock like that. If you have that off, it'll scan your face and leave it unlocked, but then you need to still swipe in to get into the UI, if that makes sense. Where if you have that on, it'll just bypass your lock screen. So anyway, those are sort of your options. Lock screens are good. They're important. They should be taken advantage of. So yes, set up those. Or during the setup process, when you first put your SIM and all that, do all of that stuff. You just might as well. From there, then we're going to actually head all the way back home. We're talking little lock screen, home screen stuff. So the home screen setup here is, it's pretty simple stuff. You guys have seen this. If you use an Android phone anytime over the last several years, you know how to work this. You know, you swipe up to get to your app drawer, you swipe down up here to get to your notification area, you long press, and then you can change your wallpaper or add some widgets, or there's some home screen settings we'll dive into in a second. You know, you can have multiple pages. You just drag one app like this. Darn curved displays. Drag one app over, creates a whole new page. If you don't want that, you can just kind of drag it back and move it back into place and see that page then goes away. You can drag apps on top of one another. That creates folders. Again, this is a sort of basic Android stuff. I hope you guys know how to do this. That said, OnePlus adds a couple of extra features you should know about that are there for convenience purposes. One thing is if you swipe over this way, Google Discover feed is now on OnePlus phones. If you used to swipe over and there was the OnePlus shelf, I don't know if you guys remember that. That's no longer to the left. It's just Google Discover, which is basically Google just showcasing news that you might be interested based on the sort of profile they have built around you. So that's there. So that's there. If you swipe into your app drawer and you swipe over to the side, you actually hide applications. So if you want to hide some from this main app drawer, you can certainly do that. But then from there, we're going to just long press here and go into these home settings down here because there's just a couple options you might want to tweak. First one says add icon to home screen. Whenever you add or install a new app from Google Play, if you have that checked, it's going to add it to a home screen. If you don't want that to happen, you should turn that off. And I don't want that to happen. This next one is probably my favorite. Swipe down to access. So if you have this thing on, and I do, and I have it swipe down to check notifications and quick settings, or there's that OnePlus shelf we were just talking about. So if I swipe up here, I'll show you what this is saying. I have it now swipe down, right? So if I swipe down in here, you can see it's bringing that down. This is a large phone. Instead of having to reach all the way up here to swipe down my notification shade when I'm on the home screen, I can do it down here. I can just swipe there. I'm in there. Does that make sense? So that's the shortcut I have set. The other one is to access the OnePlus shelf. I don't use the OnePlus shelf, but if you're a big shelf user, if you change that to a swipe down, it brings the OnePlus shelf where you can access recent apps. There's a step counter, apparently, some memos and things like that. Got it? So that's all there. You can still come up here and grab from the top to bring this down, but if you swipe down here in the middle, it brings up the shelf. Okay, so long press again. Let's go back in there. Let's change that back because we do not want that happening. Okay, so I'm back in here. A couple other things. If you don't want Google Discover, you can actually turn it off right there. Double tap to lock just means you could double tap your home screen. It'll lock the phone. We have double tap to wake turned on. I'll show you where that is in a second, but you can also do double tap to lock if you want. Launcher layout, this really is just if you want an app drawer or not. If you don't want an app drawer, you just type that. Click save and it'll put all of your apps on home screens. I can't imagine why anyone would want to do that, but maybe iPhone users do or something. That's mostly it. This quick search gestures thing, I'll let you play with that. It is not something I would ever use or recommend using, but you'll see, like icon packs, you can adjust those in here and some of your home screen layout stuff, mostly just your grid size. If you want to adjust the grid size on your home screens, you can go all the way up to 5x6. I leave mine at 5x5. I think it was that way out of the box. One thing you can do down here though is this sort of circle with the two dots. This is your icon size. So I have mine blown way up because I'm a weirdo. But you can shrink these down to be smaller to give you a little more customization in there. Anyway, one of those cool little tricks. So that is your home screen space. Those are just the simple ideas to kind of get it where you want it. Long pressing, going into home settings. Those are some of those, especially this swipe down thing is so handy. So set that up and let's move on. And we're moving on right into the notification shade, actually. So we talk about this a lot too. This area up here, the quick settings shortcuts. So again, if I swipe down, I get my brightness slider, and then I also have 6 quick settings shortcuts up top. I custom set those to be in that order. And what we talk about all the time is you should have your most used 6 be the ones that show up there, right? So what you want to do then is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up here in this second pull down area. You want these first 6 to be these ones. You can see they slide up into there. See the animation? So those 6, set those. You can also just customize the way all of these settings look, but really you just tap on this little pencil button to edit, and then you can long press and it'll let you just drag and drop things wherever you want them. Again, the first 6 are the most important because they're the easiest to get access to. So set those. The rest of them, maybe you'll use those or not. But there are multiple pages up here too that you can edit. There's some extra shortcuts down here. You can long press on these and grab and drop them wherever up here as well. So look through those, in particular like reverse charge. If you reverse wireless charge to headphones or something like that, you might want that shortcut because you have to enable that before it works. That's sort of how that works. But anyways, we're big on quick settings. So get those first 6 right, and then you should be good. Okay, moving into there, we're in the settings area now. We're gonna spend some time in here, so get comfortable. The first thing I wanna look at is display. There's a lot of display settings on OnePlus phones, many of which are very important that you should just set right away, and then you probably don't need to mess with them later. So here's your brightness slider and adaptive brightness. These are not new settings. They've been in Android for a really long time. Adaptive brightness just says it tries to optimize brightness for the available light. So sure, but if you find it too aggressive and it's dimming or getting too bright on you, that is probably the problem. Just turn that off there. A comfort tone. also tries to automatically adjust depending on your setting. And that could mean that your display gets a sort of warmer tone or a cooler tone. I'm not a huge fan of the setting, which is why I have it off. I don't like it when my phone gets sort of that warmer tone in the middle of the day. So I actually leave that off, but it's up to you to sort of play with that. If we go into advanced though, a couple of important things here. Number one is screen calibration. So this is where you get to decide the sort of color profile you like of your phone. Out of the box, I believe it's on Vivid. You can see nice and punchy. There's also a natural where it sort of tones down those punchy tones. Then there's advanced where you can kind of choose different color profiles, then go warmer, cooler, more green, more magenta. You can really customize this. OnePlus gives you lots of tools here. I think I typically just leave it on Vivid, but if you don't like that, feel free to tweak that. In resolution, you can choose Full HD, which is 1080p, or Quad HD, which is 1440p on this phone. It is a Quad HD display. During my testing, I just left it at Full HD, which is 1080p. It's up to you whether or not you want to tweak that. I can tell you right now, I left it in Full HD. Battery life on my phone was not great during my testing, and Quad HD says specifically that there is increased power consumption. So if you want to go full Quad HD, let me know how the battery life is. If we back up one screen, this is the last one we want to talk about, and it is refresh rate, probably the most important. This phone has 120 hertz refresh rate, which means it's stupid smooth no matter what you're doing, scrolling, jumping in between animations, and all of that stuff. You should leave that on because it's one of the biggest selling points of the phone. If you don't like it and you think it looks weirdly smooth, you could always dumb it back down to 60 hertz, which is the old school standard that almost every smartphone has. You will notice a difference. It is jittery at 60 and not at 120. So again, let you play with that. But you should probably leave it at 120. That's sort of part of the reason you bought this phone, isn't it? Backing out though to some more display settings, there is a hypertouch setting, which suggests that your touch response speed is dramatically improved when you're playing games. And then it also says, and other operations. During my testing, I left it off and I thought the phone was stupid smooth and responsive anyway. So I don't have a lot to relay back on. I have it on now. I haven't really noticed much of a difference, and I don't play a lot of games. So it could be more specific to games. That said, feel free to play with that and see if you notice a difference. But the phone it's already crazy snappy and responsive, just so you know. There's some other just sort of personalization things here, like a vibrant color effect, motion graphics smoothing in videos, and then an ultra high video resolution setting. This is a funny one. It's only Instagram's the only app supported on my phone, but really what it tries to do is up-res video that looks terrible in Instagram and make it look better. So you might want to turn that on if you're a big Instagram user. The other things you'll find down here are like vision comfort, reading, and dark mode. I think you probably know what those are, but vision comfort is the sort of nighttime mode where everything turns into that amber color. It's like a blue light filter. Should actually turn that off. I have mine set on a schedule, so you don't have to manually do it. Reading mode is if you use your phone to actually read books, it'll turn into a mono effect. And then dark mode, I think you guys probably know what dark mode is. Again, you can set these things on schedule. So this is just where you'll find all of this stuff, and it's all a lot of those things, again, you can set and never have to mess with again. One other thing in here, well, actually two more things. Ambient display. Ambient display is not always on display. Always on display is a part of ambient display. And what I'm talking about is ambient display is this stuff, but always on means it always shows, if that makes sense. So ambient is like the stuff you can control that shows right there. So you can like if you want the fingerprint icon to be on there, if you want other info, like contextual info to show music info and upcoming events, if you want your new notifications to show those things, those are all ambient display settings. Now the always on stuff is this stuff, always on ambient display. And you would tap on that and decide if you want it to be always on, if you want to schedule that or not have it on at all. Cause you can just tap to wake your phone and things like that too. Up to you. I'm a big always on fan, so I leave it on all day. Anyway, that's those two things. There are some more customizations to that clock layout, which we'll get to in a second. Let's back up one more then, and I promise this is the last in the display settings, but status bar. This is one of my favorite things that OnePlus does. If you tap on status bar, not only will they let you show battery percentage up there, which I've done, but if you tap icon manager, they'll let you get rid of icons. So if you don't want that really ugly N icon for NFC, you can turn that off. If you don't want the really ugly VO LTE and VO Wi-Fi, those, you can turn those off so they just never show. Kind of cool, but you want to go through this and just see, like, maybe you don't want the Bluetooth icon to show. You can turn those things off. So anyways, back out to settings. Let's now go into this customization section just below display here. So this is where, remember I mentioned you could customize the always on stuff. So you can do that there. A couple other things though, there's this canvas option, which OnePlus pushes. It's part of their always on ambient display and part of your wallpaper thing. I'll show you quickly what this is. I'm not a huge fan of it. But if we go into camera, you can choose like if I choose this, here's a fun picture and I click preview. What it'll do is take that picture and create an outline of some objects in it. It's kind of fun with people, but you can see it creates an outline and then it puts that on your ambient lock screen. The only issue I have with it is it also puts that as your wallpaper. And so if you want a different wallpaper, anyways, it's kind of fun. Some people like it. I just am not a huge fan. You can also change wallpaper there, but we showed you how to do that from your home screen. Here are those ambient clock settings. So I have just the default one. I think it looks fine. There's some other ones in here. I'll let you decide if you find one of these cooler. You can change your fingerprint animation. So the animation that runs as you're scanning your fingerprint, you'll find those in here in this customization area. And then horizon light is when you get notifications, the sides are supposed to light up. I swear it does it like 1 out of every 10 notification, but that is where you would adjust those. There are also some accent colors you can choose for. Up here you can see I've sort of gone with this like cyan color, but you could customize that color further. You can change icon shapes, pick an icon pack, and decide which font you use. So there are some customization settings. Have fun in there. Next up then, let's dive into sounds and vibrations. So sounds and vibrations, not a ton to change in here. Actually, before we do that, the volume rocker is obviously over here, and then you obviously have your alert slider here. We'll talk about the alert slider more in a second, but changing volume controls, you adjust those right by hitting up or down on that, and it has this little pop-out menu. To adjust volume at any time, you can just tap that little icon that appears at the bottom and expands and lets you do music or media, your ringtone notifications, and then there's also the alarm setting, and then you can tap on that little settings icon that takes you to where we are right now. So you can adjust all of those items. Some other things just to point out in here. Here's your Dolby Atmos settings. I'll let you play with those. Audio junkies. Your do not disturb settings are in here as well. Earphone mode, if you wear headphones a lot or earbuds a lot, you can have them autoplay music, your phone autoplay music to them the minute they're connected. You can also, when you connect them, say you have a call incoming, it'll smart answer them over Bluetooth. Again, up to you, these things. A couple things I do like to point out though is if you go into like ringtone, up at the top, there is a vibrate pattern and intensity. So you can change the pattern that your phone vibrates when a call comes in. Sort of helps you identify whether or not you're getting a call sometimes or just a notification for something. And then the vibration intensity. I leave it on strong for calls. Maybe you don't want it to vibrate your entire desk. I do because I don't get that many calls and I leave my phone on vibrate. But if you go back, also you can do the same with notification. You can't change the pattern, but you can change the intensity. So oftentimes I leave mine on light for notifications. And when you tap on those, it'll vibrate so you can kind of tell the difference between those and how strong they are. But so that helps me tell the difference between notifications and calls. Calls oftentimes can be more important. And that, that's pretty much it for your sound and vibration settings. Stepping back though, gestures would be what's next. So buttons and gestures. And we talk buttons and gestures, there's a number of things. So here we are with the alert slider again. So you guys are probably aware of this, but OnePlus phones do the old alert slider thing. You can see the little on-screen animation there. So down at the bottom is ring and sound on, in the middle is vibrate, and then up top is silent. This is a thing that they kind of took a little bit from Apple and nobody else has copied, but I love it. The OnePlus does it. You can change a few settings for each of those modes. Silent, like you can still have media play. I turn it off because I'm like, look, if I'm in silent, I probably don't want media playing either. Vibration, really, you can just change alarm settings, and then ring, have it also vibrate. There's not a lot of settings, but there if you find one you want to tweak. Nav bar and gesture. So if you don't like the Android full gesture suite down here with the swipe ups and the swipe backs from the inside and all that stuff, you can go back to the old school 3-button layout. The only advantages here are, well, number one, if you're just used to these and don't like the gestures, but one thing that 3 buttons allows you to do is this customization section. You can set up long press shortcuts here, like that'll, lock your screen or open apps or things like that. And you can double tap or long press on them, and you can customize all of that stuff here. It's one of those really cool things that was kind of sad when we got navigation gestures because it took away all of that fun. That's pretty much it. The only other thing is if you have navigation gestures, you can hide the bottom bar, which is this little bar down here. I like seeing it, so I'm not going to hide it, but if you want to, You certainly can. The next thing I would show you then is in the quick gestures section. This is a thing that OnePlus has done for a long time. I like this one in particular, the 3-fingered screenshot. So you just drag 3 fingers, it takes a screenshot. You can still always do the power and volume down. It'll take a screenshot instantly, but 3 fingers sometimes it's kind of nice. A double tap to wake. So if your phone is in this state, double tap it and it will wake up. Let's unlock there. These gestures down here are lock screen gestures. So like, for example, draw O. So if I'm here and I draw an O, that shortcut will then launch the camera because that's what I had it set to, right? So those are your lock screen gesture shortcuts. I don't use a lot of those. I used to have one that was set to do flashlight, but you can kind of pick and choose what you want it to do. These are sort of the standard ones they offer you, but there are like ways to launch apps and stuff like that too. But either way, lots of cool like quick gestures and things like that. The other one here is a double click power button. That is to launch the camera. That is always the fastest way to launch your camera. So you might want to leave that there. And then the power and hold the power button thing is kind of weird. Normally when you press and hold that, it goes into your power off menu. You can also change that to launch Google Assistant if you want. I mean, you can just launch Google Assistant by swiping at the bottom. So I don't know why you would do that, but some people might. Either way, let's briefly go in and look at the battery section. So in here, just a couple of things. So the first thing is battery optimization. So I'm just going to tap on this just to take you into this screen. So this phone, like Samsung phones, I think this one might be a little bit more aggressive at it, or at least OnePlus is. A lot of times they've set this battery optimization setting that tries to like limit apps that maybe don't get used that often, so they're not constantly pinging or whatever and draining battery. Okay, so they try to optimize batteries or optimize apps and try to smartly decide if they need to be working or not. Why I'm showing this to you is because on Samsung phones and OnePlus phones, I often turn the battery optimization off on phones like my text messaging app, Gmail, Google Voice, Telegram, whatever, those sort of apps that I want to make sure I get every single notification from. I turn it off on those. So like, let's go down to, see if I can find one here. Well, so like Google Chat as an example, I should probably have it off for that. So what you do is tap on it and it says it's trying to intelligently control and figure out whether or not it should work when it wants to work. Or you could have it super optimized or don't optimize at all. I often turn these ones to don't optimize. There's just been too many times where like Gmail hasn't sent me, a notification for an email, or I missed a text or whatever. And so now it's set to don't optimize. So I'm not telling you to just go in ahead of time and necessarily do this, but play with your phone for a little bit. And if you're noticing through several hours of use that you're not getting notifications on stuff or something seems off, you might want to go into the battery optimization section and maybe just sort of play with some of those options. That's pretty much it in here. There is an optimized charging option here that if you leave it on, it tries to sort of recognize your charging patterns to either go super fast or maybe trickle charge a little bit, that sort of thing. Anyway, it's a battery thing, but the optimization thing is kind of a big deal. Almost done here. Let's go into utilities down here. Not a lot to talk about in here, but parallel apps is one of those things you might find sort of useful. Instagram is just an example, but what this does is it creates 2 instances of an app. And the reason you would want that is maybe you have 2 different logins or 2 different accounts. Instagram doesn't really make sense because you can have multiple accounts in the Instagram app, but like maybe you want 2 instances of Telegram because you have like a burner account and then you have your normal account or something like that. So if you set this up, it seriously creates like 2 versions. So I'll show you. Right now I have 2 Instagrams installed. So there's my normal one. And then here is the parallel version, which if I tapped on that, I would have to log into it. Does that make sense? Kind of a cool setting, but it's up to you if that really meets your needs. The other thing in here is scheduled power on and off. It's good to reboot phones every once in a while, just like it is computers. So you can actually schedule that to happen regularly and get your phone running in tip-top shape. That's pretty much it other than screenshots. So screenshots on this phone has one feature I absolutely love. So take a screenshot again. You can do the 3-finger, power, volume down, whichever you want. So we take a screenshot. You can tap expanded screenshot and that will do a scrolling screenshot if you want to. But when you're in the editor, you can obviously like crop and that sort of thing. You can doodle on, you can type if you want to. And then you can put like boxes and things like that on there as well. But one thing I love that OnePlus added is this one right here. This is a blurring tool. So if you ever take a screenshot of something, there's something you maybe don't want people to see, you can blur it. You can pixelate it. Like, look at that. Like, why doesn't every single tool that takes screenshots have a pixelation tool? Anyway, you can do that. So screenshots, and then you click done and save and share or whatever. That's pretty much it. So long video again, I know. If you want this wallpaper, don't worry, I'll put it down below. OnePlus 9 Pro. Those are the first 10 things I feel like you should probably set up, and you will be dominating life. We're Droid Life. Peace.